Hello, everybody. It's been a little while since I've talked to you. I've been answering a lot of emails over the last week, but I haven't communicated with the whole group for about a week. So I want to try and share this video with you and give you some thoughts on your Module 3, which is coming up in 2 weeks. So I did talk a bit about this in my announcement last week and replied to a student's question. And I do know that quite a few of you have already started this, but let me make a few more comments and note that you do still have 2 more weeks on this curriculum assignment. So excuse my appearance, I'm just here at my cottage in Port Mattoon, Nova Scotia, really enjoying the weather blowing in, and hopefully I can get this video up before the storm hits. So let's have a look at the course. I was just going through. So just as a recap, right now, today you were finalizing and submitting your discussion post on a framework for innovative planning. So you're doing that and submitting that today, and then you're going to comment on some of your peers. I really encourage you to read widely. You'll get so many great ideas from all of your peers. And I'll comment on them as soon as possible over the next few days, even though the comments are not actually due until Friday. So let's jump up to Module 3, taking a risk. So just to highlight, you have the assignment, and then you'll post your assignment, and I really encourage you to look at other students' assignments and leave some responses for them. So you have the readings, the main assignment, a post, and your responses. So what are you doing? You are going to apply your innovative curriculum framework from Module 2 and try to apply it in your professional context. Now, most of you are teachers, although we do have a few of you who are not. So I'll respond to some of you individually and put a comment up on the announcements about what you might do instead. And it says here, don't operationalize your entire framework. You won't have time, but pick 2 or 3 elements that are feasible. And so I would even say just really focus on one action or one activity that you can implement and try to implement well to really capture your students' attention. And then think about what's happening here, because what you're going to do is report on the learning, your learning about what happened in the classroom. And so if you have a good, solid, risky experiment or activity experience, then I think that will be quite intriguing for us to read about. And so let me just make a comment about taking risk. I often highlight and ask students, especially in my announcements and in some of my responses to your framework, and even in Module 1, is when we think about taking a risk, I ask, who is taking the risk, you or your students? And so one perspective on that is that actually you are always taking a risk, whether you are trying to actually apply a universal design for learning or be more inclusive in some other fashion or giving control over to your students. Those are all risks that you are taking with your students. Even if you stick closely to the curriculum, and often in high school especially, teachers might stick more closely to the curriculum to get through the curriculum, make sure their students are prepared for the next grade level or to graduate and go on to a higher learning in some fashion or other. But we want to really, in my mind, involve the students in some risk. And what that means is if you think about giving your students some choice or giving your students some decisions to make, by making decisions, or the act of making a decision, making a choice, has some inherent risk to it. And if you think about our First People's Principles of Learning, one of those principles says that learning involves understanding the consequences of our actions. So if our actions involve making a choice between topics that we might be able to pick from, or making a decision about how we want to be assessed. And so you might let your students design some aspect of their rubric, and ask them, give them one or two criteria to design in the standards so that they take some responsibility about how they will be assessed on a particular assignment. And you can do that even with early childhood students. I've seen it done in grade 1 and 2. I've seen it done in grade 12. I've done it myself with my Bachelor of Education students. So those types of activities are really quite exciting. And the learning that you'll experience is the students' reactions to that. And often I find that as teachers, we might be more willing to take risks, because as I used to tell my students, perhaps a bit cheekily, that at the end of the day, I'm still going to go home and I'm still going to be happy. And so students want models, even in some of these Queen's Master's Program courses. I get students asking me for a model or an example of an assignment. And I always say, no, I want you to take a risk and really think about your own learning and how you want to demonstrate your competency. So if you can translate that for your students and then see how they react to those decisions, usually they'll step up to the plate, if you will, and really take on that challenge. But it is a challenge and it is a risk making those types of decisions. So let me just stop there. I'm starting to ramble a little bit, but I really find that this assignment is quite exciting. And yes, so let me just leave you with that note.